Good morning for everyone. Throughout history, the official pages of our books have often been written by those who tried to silence the soil. For centuries, the indigenous people of our lands were treated as invisible tenants on their own ancestral territories, forced into the shadow of a society that exploited their labor but denied their humanity. But the earth doesn't stay silent forever. Today, I want to talk about a movement that in fact, that didn't just fight for laws. It been the arc of history and completely redefined the identity of our entire nation, the indigenous movement. To truly understand the magnitude of this struggle, we must first honor its roots. We must look back at the founder mothers, the resilient, brave women who sowed the seeds of our resistance when it was screamed just to speak up. I'm talking about giants like Dolores Cuacango and Tránsito Amaguaño. Imagine an era where indigenous people were legally forbidden to read or write. In the mid 20th centuries, this woman didn't wait for a permission. They walked barefoot routes across the mountains to secretly found the first clandestine indigenous school, teaching, teaching children in their own language, Quichua. Dolores Cacuango famously left as a phrase that still echoes in every march today. We are like the grass of the mountain. We are pulled out, but we will grow back again. These founders' mothers proved that the world that the very first step towards liberation is education, identity, and community organization. Those early seeds of resistance grew, branch by branch, until they reached a massive historic milestone, the development and consolidation of CONAIE, the Confederation of Indigenous Nationalities of Ecuador, in 1986. But before CONAIE, indigenous struggles were insulated, communicates through lonely battles against local landers. But CONAIE did something extraordinary. It united diverse people from the Amazon rainforest, the Andean highlands, and the Pacific coast under a single, unbreakable fist. They realized that despite their different language and customs, they shared the same enemy exclusion. In June of the 1990, this unified front shook the entire country during the history. The first indigenous uprising. For a week, CONAIE paralyzed the nation. They didn't do it with weapons. They did it with the sheer force of thousands of people demanding land rights, culture, and recognition. They forced the state to finally look them in the eye, sit at the negotiation table, and listen. They bring This brings us to the profound social and political importance of the movement today. The indigenous movement completely shattered the old. Because of their continuous struggle, Ecuador is officially recognized in its contribution today as plurinational and intercultural state. This is not just a fancy legal term. It means recognizing that Western culture is not the only valid way to live on the government. The movement thought as that true democracy is not just about casting a vote every few years. It is about dignity, autonomy, and the protection of territory. When the indigenous movement marches today, they are not fighting for themselves. They are standing on the frontiers against economic inequality and defending the Pachamama, our Mother Earth, from environment destruction. They remind us that water, forests, and mountains are not commodities, but life to be protected. Okay, so finally, to conclude, the indigenous movement is not a relic of the past, nor is it a simple political factor. It is the living conscience of our society. It is proof that when marginalized people organize from the ground up, they have the power to transform a country. Let us always remember the courage of the founder mothers. respect the imminent strengths of their organization, and recognize that their fight for a more just, dignified, and equitable world is a fight that ultimately belongs to every single one of us. Thank you very much for listening.